Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jared Dunn, and today we're going to talk a little bit about the movie Remember the Titans. It was based in Virginia in the year 2000, and it was a true story of a newly appointed African American coach and his high school football team on their first season as a racially integrated unit. Just a little bit of what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the core leadership styles of Coach Boone and Coach Yost, what leadership style I want to emulate and why I want to emulate that particular style. Next, the specific scene and describe the type of follower depicted and talk about the type of leadership style that was used. And then finally, we'll wrap it up with the organizational culture concerns that coaches have to address the move or to move the team towards the level of desired change. So moving into the briefing, we're going to talk about the vision that Coach Boone had for the team. He is the new head coach for this team. His mission is to change the culture of the team by uniting African American and Caucasian players by envisioning teamwork. His two goals that he had for the team was to bring the team together to develop a winning team, and then to treat everyone equally regardless of race and ethnic background. So now moving on to the characteristics of Coach Boone and Coach Yost. Coach Boone's characteristics, he had emotional intelligence, which was he was able to maintain and control his emotions while also treating his players with respect. He also was a reformer. He was a perfectionist who strives to perform at his best. Next, he was a motivator also. He was very positive, goal-oriented. He displayed a high level of energy and it's self-assured. And then also, finally, he was a leader. Why I say he was a leader? Because he sets a good example by interacting and encouraging his players to form relationships with each other. So now, moving on to Coach Boone's leadership styles. Throughout the movie, he possessed many leadership styles, or different leadership styles, I should say. First, he was an authoritarian style leader. He was a leader who mobilizes the team towards a common vision by dictating and establishing rules and deciding what is best for the team. Next, he is a transformational style leader. He is an inspirational motivator who is committed to the team's goals and objectives by showing emphasis on team building. And then finally, he's a transactional style leader who wants to achieve a specific goal through awarding players for their hard work. So now moving on to Coach Yost's characteristics, and then we'll talk about his leadership styles as well. He was the former head coach of this team. He is a helper. He's very supportive in his relationship with Coach Boone and the players. He's yet more easygoing than Coach Boone is. And then finally, why I say he's a leader as well. He's a leader by emphasizing self-interest in the players that motivates them to interact with the team, within the team. And then Coach Yost's leadership styles, he's people-oriented. He provides support by emphasizing a positive atmosphere in which the team members can maximize their capabilities to accept individual differences. And then finally, he also is a transformational style leader. He has good foundation on his beliefs and morals that include inspirational motivation, individualized consideration, intellectual stimulation, and idealized influence. He is committed to the team's objectives and empowers the players to achieve these objectives. So now the next thing we'll talk about is the leadership style I want to emulate. Both coaches did an outstanding job as leaders to help motivate the players by bringing success to the team. I want to emulate the leadership style of Coach Yost just because the players respond better to him. With that being a transformational leader, I want to see the players change over time. And then like Coach Yost did, I want to set a good foundation like Coach Yost. And then also always being positive towards the players. And then also being more motivated to feel the strengths and weaknesses of the players. So next, we'll dive into the specific scene of what I think in the movie, which what I thought was good. So the scene that I am going to pick is attitude reflects leadership. This is when Julius and Gary get into an altercation at camp during practice. This was a big step for them as well, and for the team, just because they both chewed each other out. It was great. It was a great step in the right direction for them, not only for them but as well for the team. Gary being the captain and wasn't doing everything correctly, and then Julius finally jumped in and said something to him about it. Gary knew that he wasn't, or when Julius said that he wasn't going to do anything, Gary wasn't taking the right steps in doing that. So Julius finally said something to him. He said, "I'll do what I want and just for me." And then Gary responded to that saying, "That is very selfish of you." And then finally said, "Attitude reflects leadership." So I thought this was a huge scene in the movie, just because if that wouldn't have happened, who knows what would happen, just based on Gary's leadership and how he handled that cultural concern. So then finally, we'll talk about the organizational cultural concerns and desired change for the team. So we all know that race was a huge issue throughout the movie, and they were the only team with black and white football players. So with that, from the beginning, with how Coach Boone handled it, I thought it was great when he said, "You're going to room with this guy and get to know him and his family," and then said, "You're going to be friends at the end of the day." I thought that was really good, just because you get to see the cultural differences with each family and player. You get to connect with them. You get to build relationships with them and their family, and also you get to build trust in each other and you have to rely on each other every day. Just because whenever you're on the football field with each other, there is no I in team. There is a certain amount of players on that team, so you have to rely on them to create a bond with each other. And then finally, we'll talk about when they ran to Gettysburg. It was a big moment. And we also saw that Coach Yost wasn't a big fan of Boone's leadership style. He said that the guys are football players, not Marines. We aren't going to run all this way and run them to death. But that being said, that was Coach Boone's particular style of leadership and personality. He wanted to get the players' best personality and bring the best out in them. And then at the end of the day, it was great for the team and for the staff. So in conclusion, we discussed about the core leadership styles of Coach Boone and Coach Yost, the leadership style I want to emulate and why I want to emulate that particular style, the specific scene, and describe the type of follower depicted and talk about the type of leadership style that was used, the organizational culture concern the coaches have to address to move the team towards the level of desired change. So I just want to thank you for your time. Again, my name is Jared Dunn, and thank you for this briefing.